I used to believe that silence was a blessing. Now it feels like a punishment. The shop's been quiet for months. No laughter, no country music from the old radio. No sound of Emily's sneakers tapping the floor while she waited for me to finish a job. Just the slow tick of the wall clock and the faint smell of motor oil clinging to everything I own. It's funny how a place can stay exactly the same after your whole life's been blown apart. I still come here every morning, to the same stool, the same cup of black coffee gone cold before I even take the first sip. I pretend I'm fixing something, tightening bolts, cleaning wrenches, but I'm not fixing a damn thing. I just can't stand being home, because your voice is still there. I live on the edge of a small town called Maple Hollow, Tennessee. Population just under 6,000. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and grief travels faster than the mail. When Emily died, the whole town showed up at the church. I remember staring at their faces, the neighbors, the sheriff, my boss, all of them whispering how it was such a tragedy and she was too young. But no one said what I knew they were thinking, that it was my fault. They didn't have to say it. I could hear it anyway. Emily was 17. Smart, loud, and stubborn, just like her mother used to be before she left. She was my world, my reason to wake up. And I was supposed to pick her up from her friend's house that night, but I didn't, because I'd been drinking. I don't remember much of that day, except the rain. Heavy, endless, washing the streets clean of everything except the things that mattered. She'd texted me around 9. "Hey Dad, are you on your way?" I saw the message around 10:30 after my second beer. By the time I grabbed my keys, she was gone. They said she lost control on the curve by Miller's Bridge, hit the guardrail, went straight into the river. By the time they pulled her out, it was too late. I can still see the water when I close my eyes. Dark, cold, endless. People tell you grief gets easier. That time softens the pain. They're lying. Time doesn't heal anything. It just rearranges the wreckage so you can trip over it later. I tried going back to work. Lasted 3 days. Tried AM meetings. Lasted 2. Tried sleeping. Failed completely. So now I just sit. And I think about the last time she laughed. About the sound of her humming while cooking macaroni and cheese. About that stupid pink hoodie she wore everywhere. It's like every memory is a blade with her name on it. This morning, I walked to the shop again. The air was colder than usual, the kind that sticks to your lungs. The old sign outside still reads Turner's Auto and Repair, even though no one's brought a car in for weeks. I turned the key, flipped on the lights. They buzzed like they were tired too. There's a photo of Emily taped above my workbench, her in her graduation gown, holding up the cap she never got to throw. Every day I look at it and think about how proud I was, and how fast I managed to ruin everything. I keep asking myself one question, over and over. Why didn't I answer the damn phone? Later that afternoon, the real estate lady came by again. Her name's Karen Malone, polite, well-meaning, with that firm kindness people use when they don't know what else to say. She's been trying to help me sell the house. Says it's the best way to start over. I told her I'm not starting over. I'm just ending slowly. Still, she insisted we take another look inside, maybe take some pictures. So we drove up the dirt road to the house, the one Emily painted light blue with her own hands 2 summers ago. The one that still smells like her shampoo. Walking through the front door felt like stepping into someone else's life. Everything's frozen in time. Her sneakers by the stairs. Her notebooks on the coffee table. The half-finished jigsaw puzzle we never completed. I told Karen she could take pictures of anything except her room. But after she left, I found myself standing at her door anyway. It's funny how a doorknob can weigh 50 pounds when you don't want to turn it. I pushed it open slowly. The afternoon light came through the blinds, dust dancing in the air like tiny ghosts. Her posters were still on the wall. Taylor Swift, some old NASA one she got from a thrift shop. Her bed was unmade, the comforter bunched up like she'd just stepped out for a moment. I sat down and felt the air go still. Every corner of that room was a reminder. The hairbrush, the sketchbook, the candle that still smelled like vanilla. It felt wrong to touch anything, but I did anyway. I pulled open her desk drawer. There were pens, a few birthday cards, and a folded piece of paper that just said, "For Dad." My heart stopped. But when I opened it, it was just a grocery list from last year. I laughed. Then I cried. Then I laughed again. I started packing. Old clothes, books, the stuffed bear she used to sleep with when she was little. I filled 3 boxes before the sun started to set. Then, while moving a pile of blankets from under her bed, I heard a soft thud. Something wooden. I got down on my knees, reached underneath, and pulled out a small wooden box. It was old, smooth, polished, with tiny painted daisies on the lid. Emily's handiwork, no doubt. She loved painting things that didn't need painting. There was a note taped on top. My hands were shaking when I peeled it off. It said, "For when you miss me the most." Emily. For a long time I couldn't breathe. I ran my fingers over her handwriting, the way she looped her E, the little heart she used instead of a dot on the I. I felt like the room was spinning, like the air had been knocked out of me. I sat on the floor, the box on my lap, staring at it. It had a small brass lock, but no key. Part of me wanted to break it open right there. But another part, the part that still hears her voice, whispered, "Not yet." The sky outside turned orange, then purple. The cicadas started up in the yard. I carried the box to the kitchen table, turned off the lights, and just sat there. All I could think was, why now? Why did she leave this? What's inside? My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I felt like she was in the room again, watching me, waiting. I looked down at her note one more time. "For when you miss me the most, if that's the rule. Then I guess it's time." I didn't sleep that night. The box sat on the table like it was alive, breathing, waiting, daring me to open it. Every creak of the house made me look up. Every gust of wind felt like a whisper. At some point, I poured myself a drink, then stopped halfway. Emily wouldn't want that, so I just sat there, watching the moonlight spill across the box. And when dawn finally came, I found myself whispering, "Okay, sweetheart. I'm ready." The brass lock wasn't strong. One twist of a screwdriver, and it gave way with a soft click. Inside, there were 5 envelopes, neatly stacked, each one sealed with a little piece of purple tape. On the top, written in her handwriting, "Start here, Dad." I could barely hold the first one. My fingers were trembling too much. The envelope was light, almost empty. I tore it open carefully, afraid of breaking something sacred. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a photograph. It was us, me and her at Lake Marin, 2 summers ago. I was holding up a fish, and she was pretending to be disgusted, laughing so hard she nearly fell into the water. On the back of the photo, she'd written, "The summer you remembered how to smile." Her letter began simply, "Hi Dad, if you're reading this, it means you finally opened the box. I know it took you a while. You've always been stubborn. Do you remember the lake? You taught me how to cast a line, but you never let me put the worm on the hook. You said I didn't have the stomach for it. Maybe you were right. But you also taught me that patience can make something ordinary feel like magic. That's what this is, Dad. Magic. The kind that doesn't need to make sense yet. So go to the lake. Take the photo with you. I left something there for you. Something I knew you'd need. Love you always, Emily." I read it 3 times. Each word felt like it had been waiting years to find me. For the first time in months, I felt something inside me shift. Not quite hope, not quite peace. Just movement. So I grabbed my jacket, my truck keys, and the photo, and I drove. The road to Lake Marin hadn't changed. Same cracked asphalt, same leaning mailboxes, same rusted billboard that used to read "Welcome to Maple Hollow." before someone spray-painted "good luck getting out" across it. The closer I got, the heavier my chest felt. That lake was the last place I'd truly been happy. When I arrived, the sun was climbing over the trees. Mist hung low above the water, and the smell of pine carried through the air. The dock was still there, old, crooked, boards missing in the middle. I could almost hear her voice echoing across the water. "Come on, Dad. Bet I catch one before you do." I smiled without meaning to. Then I sat down on the edge of the dock, the letter in my lap, the photo in my hand. The surface of the lake rippled gently. Somewhere far off, a loon cried, that long, lonely sound that never seems to end. That's when I noticed it. Something small, half buried under the loose plank where Emily used to sit. A plastic bag wrapped in tape. Inside, another envelope, dry and clean. On it, her handwriting again. For when he finally comes back, I could barely breathe as I tore it open. Inside was a folded note and a small USB flash drive taped to it. Her message said, "Hey Dad, if you found this, it means you listened. I'm proud of you. Plug this in when you get home. But don't watch it at the shop. Watch it where it's quiet, where you can hear me." My throat closed up. I sat there for a long time, staring at the water, the USB clutched in my hand. Then I whispered, "What are you trying to tell me, baby?" On the way back, the town looked different. Not brighter, but less dead. For the first time, I noticed the sound of kids playing near the park. The smell of barbecue from Miller's Diner. Things I hadn't seen in months, because I'd been living behind a curtain of grief. When I pulled up to the house, the afternoon sun was spilling through the trees. I parked the truck, turned off the engine, and just sat there, listening to the quiet. Then I went inside, shut every window, and plugged the USB into the old laptop. The screen flickered. And there she was, Emily, alive, smiling, wearing that same pink hoodie I could never throw away. The room behind her looked like her friend Lily's basement. I recognized the posters on the wall. She took a deep breath, looked straight into the camera, and said softly, "Hey Dad, if you're watching this, it means you didn't forgive yourself yet." But I did. I froze. Her voice was so clear, so alive. It felt like she was sitting across from me. "I know what you're thinking," she continued, "that it's your fault, that if you'd picked me up, I'd still be here. But Dad, that's not true. I made a choice that night. I didn't call you because I didn't want to bother you. You always did so much for me already." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "So stop punishing yourself, please. You gave me everything I ever wanted. You were my home." I couldn't stop shaking. My face was wet before I even realized I was crying. "And there's something else," she added, leaning closer. "If you really want to understand what happened that night, ask Mrs. Parker what she saw. She knows something you don't." She looked down, fiddled with her bracelet, the one I bought her for her 15th birthday. "I love you, Dad. Always will. Don't disappear, okay? You've still got things to fix." Then she blew a kiss at the camera. The screen went black. I sat there for what felt like hours, the sound of her voice echoing in my head. "Ask Mrs. Parker what she saw." Mrs. Parker, the neighbor across the street. The one who used to make Emily cookies every Sunday. The one who'd been there the night of the accident. I hadn't spoken to her since the funeral. Couldn't. She tried to bring food, flowers, prayers. I sent her away. Now for the first time, I wondered what she hadn't said. That night, I took the lake photo and pinned it to the fridge. It felt like a promise, a tiny piece of her still guiding me somewhere. I didn't drink. I didn't cry. I just sat in the dark, holding the first envelope, her handwriting pressed against my heart. At 2 a.m., thunder rolled outside. Rain started tapping the roof, slow and steady. I stared out the window at the faint light of Mrs. Parker's house across the street. Her porch light was still on, like it had been every night since the accident. Something in me said, "Go now." But I didn't move, not yet. Instead, I whispered into the dark, "Tomorrow, sweetheart. I'll go tomorrow." And for the first time in months, I slept. The next morning, the air felt heavier. It had that stillness after a storm, the kind that makes you whisper, even when you're alone. I poured coffee, stared at the steam rising, and thought of Emily's voice again. Ask Mrs. Parker what she saw. I must have replayed her video a dozen times last night. Every smile, every pause, every word that could mean something more. By sunrise, I'd convinced myself she was mistaken. That maybe she just wanted me to find comfort, not answers. But that didn't last long. Because deep down, I already knew. Emily never said anything by accident. Mrs. Parker lived right across the street. White house, trimmed hedges, wind chimes that never seemed to stop. She'd been our neighbor for more than 20 years. When Emily was little, she'd spend afternoons there baking cookies and listening to her stories about the old Maple Hollow days. I hadn't spoken to her since the funeral. Couldn't stand the way her eyes looked at me, full of pity I didn't deserve. But today, I needed to know. I crossed the street, each step feeling heavier than the last. The porch steps creaked under my boots. When I knocked, the sound echoed through the quiet like it didn't belong there. The door opened after a moment. Mrs. Parker stood there, small, frail, wrapped in a thick sweater despite the heat. She looked surprised, then something else. Relief, maybe. "Michael?" she said softly. Her voice cracked a little. "I wasn't sure I'd ever see you again. I cleared my throat. I need to ask you something. About that night." Her smile faded. "I wondered when you would." She led me inside. The house smelled like cinnamon and old furniture. There were photos everywhere, her family, her grandkids, and a few of Emily too. We sat at her kitchen table, sunlight spilling across the linoleum. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I reached into my jacket and pulled out the note Emily left me. I slid it across the table. "She said you know something," I said quietly. "Something I don't." Mrs. Parker stared at the paper, her hands trembling slightly. She closed her eyes. I was afraid she might do this. Do what? Try to make things right after she was gone. She sighed, leaning back. "Michael, I didn't tell you everything. The night of the accident, Emily came by my house. Around 9:30, I froze. Came by? You mean she wasn't home? She was supposed to be, I know. But she showed up here, said she was worried about you. Said you hadn't answered your phone all day. My stomach turned. She came here. Looking for me?" Mrs. Parker nodded slowly. "She asked if I'd seen you. I told her I hadn't. She said you were supposed to pick her up, but she didn't want to wait anymore. She said she'd go get you." The room started spinning. She was coming for me?" "Yes," Mrs. Parker whispered. "She said she'd drive toward Miller's bar. Thought maybe he'd had a drink after work. I tried to stop her, Michael. I swear I did. But she just smiled and said, 'It's okay, he needs me.' And then she left. Those words tore through me like glass. He needs me. I couldn't breathe. All this time, I'd believed she was out with her friends, heading home, that the accident was random, cruel. But no. She was coming for me. Because I'd failed her first. Mrs. Parker reached across the table and took my hand. Her skin was soft, trembling. She loved you, Michael. More than anything, she didn't blame you. I do, I muttered. My voice was rough, barely there. I blame me. She wouldn't want that. She doesn't get a say anymore, I said, louder than I meant to. The words cracked the air like a whip. Mrs. Parker flinched, but she didn't pull away. She just nodded, tears in her eyes. She knew this would break you. That's why she planned those letters, those videos. She wanted you to forgive yourself. I looked away, toward the window. Outside, the sunlight flickered through the trees, and I could see the faint reflection of my own face, older, heavier, stranger. She knew I couldn't, I whispered. Not after this. Mrs. Parker stood up slowly, walked to a drawer, and returned holding a small folded paper. "I wasn't going to show you this," she said, "but she asked me to keep it safe, just in case." It was another envelope, small, wrinkled, sealed with the same purple tape. On the front, in that same looping handwriting, "For Dad, from Mrs. Parker's house." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a drawing, a childish one, crayon on notebook paper. It was me and her, standing beside a car, with a giant sun smiling above us. At the bottom, written in crooked letters, "My dad always saves me, even when he thinks he can't." I stared at it until the colors blurred into one. That drawing was from years ago, maybe when she was 8 or 9. She must have left it with Mrs. Parker long before the accident. Maybe she'd known, somehow, that I'd need it someday. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. Then I said quietly, "Thank you." Mrs. Parker's eyes glistened. She was special, Michael. She saw the best in everyone, even when they couldn't see it in themselves. I nodded. My throat hurt too much to speak. When I stepped outside, the air hit me like a wall. It smelled like rain again, like the world was about to wash itself clean. I sat on the porch steps and let the wind blow through me. My chest felt hollow, but not empty. More like space had opened up. Space where the truth could finally breathe. That night, I went back to Emily's room. I laid the new drawing beside the first letter, the photo from the lake, and the USB drive. All the pieces of her, each one pulling me somewhere new. As I sat there, the house creaked softly, like it was listening. Then I noticed something I hadn't before. A faint engraving carved into the bottom of her wooden box. The words were small, almost invisible. "Remember the tree." It hit me like a whisper from another world. The oak tree we'd planted together when she was 8, the one out by the old field behind the house. We'd buried a time capsule there once, with little trinkets and notes to our future selves. I felt my heart start to race again. I grabbed a flashlight and headed outside. The grass was damp from the afternoon rain, glistening under the moonlight. Crickets sang in the dark as I walked down the narrow path to the field. The oak stood tall at the edge of the hill, its branches swaying like it remembered me. And then, right there at its base, something caught the light, the neck of a small glass bottle, half buried in the dirt. I knelt down, brushed away the soil, and pulled it free. Inside was another envelope, sealed tight. My chest tightened. I knew this wasn't coincidence. This was her next step, the next part of her plan. I held the bottle to my chest, looking up at the stars. For the first time since she died, I whispered into the night, not in pain, but in awe. "You're still guiding me, aren't you, baby girl?" The wind rustled through the leaves, soft, gentle, almost like an answer. The next morning, I woke before the sun. Couldn't tell if it was the wind outside or something stirring inside me. That bottle I'd found at the base of the oak sat on the table, still beaded with dirt and dew. The glass caught the early light, scattering little gold reflections across the walls. For a second, the house didn't feel so empty. I turned the bottle in my hands. Inside, the paper had darkened with age, but I could still see the edge of the purple tape she used on every envelope. I wanted to open it right there, but something held me back. Maybe it was the memory of her voice saying, "Go where it's quiet, where you can hear me." The oak tree was quiet. The kind of quiet that listened back. So I pocketed the bottle, grabbed my jacket, and stepped outside. The morning air was cool, soft. Mist rolled off the hills like smoke from a dream. Every step toward that field felt like walking backward in time, to every Saturday morning we'd spent planting flowers, catching bugs, chasing the dog around the yard, while Emily laughed till she couldn't breathe. That laugh still echoed in the back of my head, not as pain this time, but as something close to light. The oak stood at the far end of the property, tall and strong. It had grown since the last time I really looked at it. Back then, Emily was 8, holding the sapling steady while I shoveled dirt. She wore overalls 2 sizes too big and a pink ribbon in her hair. I could still hear her tiny voice saying, "We should name it." And me replying, "Trees don't need names, kiddo." She'd crossed her arms, thinking hard, then said, "Then I'll call it Hope, 'cause that's what it's for." I knelt at the base of Hope, brushing away the dirt. There, still wedged between 2 roots, was the bottle. I eased out the envelope and peeled the tape open slowly. Inside was another folded note, and something else. A small voice recorder, the kind she used for school projects. Her handwriting on the note was uneven, rushed. "Press play, Dad, but stay right here when you do." My hands trembled as I clicked the button. A burst of static, then her voice, bright and young. "Hi, future Dad. If you're hearing this, it means we did it. The tree grew." My knees gave out, and I sank to the grass. That voice, younger, softer, from before life got complicated. She giggled. "I buried this so we'd always have something that remembers us. Trees remember, you know? They hold on to things, sunlight, rain, even people." A pause. Then her voice turned quiet. "If you're listening to this, and I'm not there anymore, don't be sad, okay? It means I'm part of the tree now. You can talk to me anytime. Just don't stop talking." The recording ended with her laughter fading into the sound of wind. I sat there for a long time, eyes closed, palms pressed to the earth. I could feel the roots under me, alive, connected. It felt like she was there, not as a ghost, but as something gentler. For the first time since she died, I didn't feel alone. That's when I heard a voice behind me. "Mr. Turner?" I turned. A boy stood by the fence, maybe 10 years old, with a baseball glove and a shy expression. He waved awkwardly. "Sorry, sir, didn't mean to scare you. My dad said this field used to belong to you and your daughter." "It still does," I said quietly. He nodded, eyes wide. "She was the girl who helped plant the oak, right? My mom told me." I smiled faintly. "That's right. Her name was Emily." The boy stepped closer, looking at the tree. "It's pretty. We always play catch near it. It feels peaceful." Something in my chest eased. "That's what she wanted," I said. "For people to feel peace here," he grinned. "Then she did a good job." He waved again, then jogged back toward the road, his laughter carrying through the air. I watched him go, and for a moment, I could almost see Emily running beside him. As the day warmed, I sat under the tree, staring at the recorder. Its little red light blinked once and went out. Battery dead, message complete. But her last words kept echoing. "Don't stop talking." So I didn't. I told her everything. How I missed her, how angry I'd been, how sorry I still was. I told her about Mrs. Parker, about the truth I'd learned, about how every piece of guilt I'd carried now felt like it belonged to someone else, to the man I used to be. And when I finished, I whispered, "I'm still here, kiddo. Still fighting." The wind stirred the branches overhead. A single leaf drifted down and landed on my palm. I laughed through the tears. "Message received," I said. As the sun dipped low, I stood and noticed something glinting near the roots. A small metal locket, half buried in the soil. Inside, folded tight, was another note, tiny, almost hidden. It said, "Go home, Dad. Check the box again." By the time I reached the house, the sky had turned violet. I set the recorder beside the other things, the letters, the drawings, the photo. Then I looked at the wooden box again. For the first time, I noticed something wedged beneath the bottom panel, a thin piece of cardboard I hadn't seen before. I pulled it free, and there it was, one more envelope. The last one. Written on it, in those same familiar loops, "For when you're ready to let me go." I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I placed it in front of me, beside the photo of us at the lake. Then I whispered, "Tomorrow, sweetheart. Tomorrow, I'll be ready." Outside, the wind brushed softly against the house, like the tree was listening. And for the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. The envelope waited on the table through the night. I didn't sleep much. I just sat there, watching the edges of dawn slide across the kitchen floor, wondering what letting go would even feel like. Grief changes time. It stretches seconds into hours and years into a blink. But that morning, everything felt still. When the first light hit the window, I reached for the envelope. It was lighter than I expected. Inside was a single key and a note written in her neat, careful script. "Go to the old fairground, Dad. You'll understand." The fairground. Half a mile outside town, abandoned for years, long before the accident. But it used to be our place. Every summer, Emily begged to go when the carnival rolled in. Cotton candy on her chin, lights spinning in her eyes. Her favorite ride was the carousel. She said the horses looked like they were chasing happiness and never getting tired. I slipped the key into my pocket, grabbed my jacket, and drove. The road curved through the fog like a memory. The air smelled of rain and iron. When I reached the old fairground gate, I saw the padlock on the fence, rusted, ancient. The key slid in perfectly. Click, the metal gate groaned open, and the world beyond it came alive in silence. The fairground was a skeleton of what it had been. The carousel leaning, paint flaked away, booths collapsed under weeds. But when the wind moved, the faded streamers fluttered, and I swear I heard echoes of music. I walked to the carousel. The horses were frozen mid-stride, eyes wide, manes cracked with time. And then I saw it, taped to the center pole, another small flash drive, her purple tape again. A note beneath it. "Plug it in, Dad. The generator still works." The generator. I'd repaired that old thing years ago when the carnival owner couldn't afford a new one. I found it under the tarp behind the booth. It was dusty but solid. I pulled the cord once. Nothing. Twice. A cough. Third time, it roared to life, spitting smoke and light. And just like that, the carousel flickered. One bulb lit, then another, until the whole circle glowed like a waking memory. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop, set it on the ticket counter, and pressed play. The screen lit up. Emily appeared, older than the lake video but still bright-eyed. Filmed right here, judging by the painted horses behind her. She smiled. "Hey, Dad, guess where I am?" I smiled back through tears. She turned the camera, showing the carousel spinning slowly behind her. "You fixed this for me when I was 10, remember? You said it was too stubborn to quit. You were really talking about yourself, you know. If you're watching this, it means you found everything. The letters, the lake, the tree. You did it." She took a breath. "So here's the truth. I was never mad at you. Not once. I was just scared you'd stop living when I couldn't be there to make you laugh anymore." Her voice trembled. "You were my hero, Dad. You always saved me, not from anything big, but from the little things, bad days, bad dreams, bad math tests. Now it's your turn to save yourself." She looked around, eyes glistening. "This carousel, it's kind of like us, isn't it? It broke down, but you brought it back to life. So maybe that's what you're supposed to do now." She smiled again, small, brave, endless. "Keep it spinning, Dad, for both of us." The video ended on her laugh, that clear, fearless sound that filled every empty space inside me. I stood there, surrounded by flickering lights, the music box inside the carousel creaking back to life. I could have fallen apart again. But instead, I started moving. I tightened bolts, cleaned gears, wiped dust from the painted horses. Hours passed. Sunlight broke through the clouds. And when I finally switched the generator back on, the carousel turned. Slowly at first, then smoother. The horses came alive in circles of gold and red and blue. I stepped back and laughed, really laughed, for the first time since she left. When people from town passed by later that day, they stopped and stared. Kids pointed, wide-eyed, and I waved them in. "Go ahead," I said. "It's open." By evening, laughter filled the air again. Children running, parents smiling, lights spinning across the field. Someone asked me what the place was called now. I looked at the sign above the gate, the old letters half gone, and said, "It's called Emily's Carousel." When the crowd left and the stars came out, I sat on the bench beside the ride. The wind carried the faint hum of the generator, steady and warm. I pulled out the last envelope, her note from the box. On the back, she'd written one final line I hadn't noticed before. "See? You didn't lose me, Dad. You just had to keep moving to find me again." I closed my eyes. For the first time in forever, the silence didn't hurt. Final narration. People say grief is like a storm, something you survive and then forget. But that's not true. Grief is a map. It leads you back to the places where love never died. I looked up at the stars and whispered, "I found you, sweetheart." And I'm still spinning. The carousel lights shimmered in the dark, painting the night with color. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a heartbeat, I could swear I heard her laugh riding the music.